During a Thursday press briefing, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about President Biden's student loan forgiveness announcement. Biden on Wednesday announced his wide-scale student loan forgiveness plan, including canceling up to $20,000 of debt per borrower and an extension of the payment pause. Jean-Pierre was specifically asked about how the administration would respond to Democrats who, quote, wanted to see this more fixed towards lower-income Americans. Jean-Pierre said that while President Biden understands the plan, quote, isn't going to please everybody, it will be, quote, giving families a little breathing room.
So back on student loans, I wanted to ask you, Congressman Tim Ryan and Senator Bennett were among Democrats that have made the point that the administration should have further targeted the student relief and proposed a way to pay for the plan. What does the administration say to, particularly like Congressman Ryan's point, that waiving debt for those already on a trajectory to financial security sends the wrong message to Americans? And I was also hoping you could talk to us, give us perhaps a little bit of color, to what extent were consultations made with particularly Democrats who had some misgivings and wanted to see this more fixed towards lower income Americans?
So just a couple of things, because you asked me a bunch of things there, Amr. So first of all, this was a campaign promise that the president made, as we all know, during the campaign back in 2020. And he had wanted to make sure that he gives that little bit of breathing room to Americans who really need it. And this was targeted. This was targeted for Americans who are making less than $125,000. It gives that $10,000 debt relief. And if there are, and it has that Pell Grant provision in there, as we've talked about. You heard from Ambassador Susan Rice, and you guys have all read, I'm sure, the fact sheets. And when you look at the Pell Grant provision and you add that piece to it, that adds another, that could go up to $20,000, right? And so that's incredibly targeted. That's really important. Those borrowers who are on Pell Grant, let's think about this, right? Some of us in here probably had gotten Pell Grant. I had to get a Pell Grant when I went to college. And those are families that are $60,000 households, and that's nearly $60,000 per household. And if you look at it by half, that's 30. Part of that tranche is $30,000 people per household, and so that's incredibly targeted and will go very far and will be a big deal. Look, we understand, the president understands, and he said this yesterday, it's not going to please everybody. He understands that the policy is not. What he is trying to do is make sure that, again, we're giving families a little breathing room. And just to give you a few quotes, because there has been a broad range of groups and advocates, from teachers unions to labor groups to racial justice advocates, who have applauded the president's announcements. If you think about the United Auto Workers, President Biden once again showed that his administration stands with working families over special interests. That's what we're talking about. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, this is AFSCME. Today's historic actions puts money back into working people's pockets and frees thousands of families from crippling debt. That's what we're talking about. American Federation of Teachers, AFT, you all know them. This administration's decisions have been a game changer. And lastly, Representative Clyburn, this will help free borrowers, especially borrowers of color, from the crushing burden of student loan debt, and help make higher education accessible, affordable to all. And to your other part of your question about who we spoke to, we are constantly in conversations on all these types of big issues, big announcement, whether it's legislation, whether it's executive action that we take with Congress, with groups, and people who are really going to be affected by this. That is important to the president. And the way that we see this is a smart, fiscally balanced approach to deal with an issue that does indeed cripple families.